And we are live. 1, 2, 3. Let's check it. Seems good. Seems like okay, just 1 sec. Okay, so welcome everyone to the stream. For anyone tuning in the first time, this is a weekly Q&A sessions, but it's not always gonna be Q&A. Today it's gonna be me presenting some ideas and talking about some things in business. And if you guys have any questions, I will answer them. And in the coming weeks, you can expect some interviews with some of our members. Also, our chats with Matt. Last week, me and Matt talked about distractions and focus and how to get more done. I think it turned out really well. Today, I'm doing a solo stream. So yeah, let's try it out, see how it goes. Again, if anyone has any questions regarding business or the group or and if kind of in that realm, then or freelancing, then please shoot them in the comments. I should be able to see them. Yeah, and before and until that happens, I'm going to share with you guys some of some interesting concepts I've been trying to kind of dig through to figure out for myself to help in both business and in life, some sort of mental models and also like principles, because I think these are the most important like mental models and principles in any field. So mental models are basically like the most important concepts from all the various fields in the world. So from biology, from physics, from all those fields. And these are like the big ideas that are proven. And then you can take them basically and you can apply them to your field. And I think learning these plus some principles of your particular field that you are in are a lot more important than having like this specific tactical knowledge of like, hey, maybe do this time, so do this, I don't know, for now this is some LinkedIn strategy is working, or I don't know, some other lead generation tactics working, or maybe email is working or not working. But if you keep, I think, those some of these principles and mental models always in mind, you will always be able to find solution, and you will also be always able to tell what is true and what has a higher chance of working, what's going to work and what's not going to work. So with that in mind, I'll try to share my screen and share with you guys one of them, which is, let me check, give me a second. Okay. Okay. How do I share my screen? Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. So I'm sharing this is what I've been working for the past few months. It's basically, kind of creating my own personal knowledge management system in this really great tool called Obsidian, which basically allows you to kind of map your ideas and your thoughts in more of the way that your brain works, rather than this hierarchical structure that you have in folders and that we normally use. This one allows you to basically like make connections between a lot of different nodes, and the way it is in the word, like the one mental model is in one way connected to maybe business, but at the same time it can be connected to maybe I don't know, as I said, biology, and then from that you can connect it to maybe where you found it, and some other things. So you can basically connect it endlessly when it makes sense. And I can go into more details, and some other time if there's like some actual interest in sharing that, if someone wants to build it. But I want to keep this stream for now more let's say business, freelance, or on that field. And if there's interest, I can share it in the future. I'll share it in just a moment if there's any comments I don't see any comments. So yeah, I think the first mental model that I would like to share with you guys that is gonna be helpful for you guys is the mental model of leverage. I've been working on putting this kind of note together. It's still very rough, so that's why I haven't published anything with it, because the goal with all those notes is that once I form something, then I can post it as a blog post or as a podcast or something like that. But now I'm just gonna kind of give you guys my thoughts on it thus far, when it's not so pretty yet. So one of the most powerful forces that you can use in all you do, basically, be it in your freelance business or in your normal business or even in your life, is the force of leverage. And there's this really great quote of Archimedes: "Give me a lever long enough and I shall move the world." So leverage basically means doing more with less. It's like a force multiplier for your judgment. And the reason why it is so important now is that we live in internet allows us to have even more leverage, because, for example, you can create one video that is you can then publish and then can be seen with by thousands and thousands and millions of people, which was not possible before. So there are these ways where you can do it, but then there are a lot of ways where we don't use leverage. Like, for example, when you do something like one-to-one, when you work on something that just cannot be really multiplied. So regarding leverage, when it comes to business, that's what I figured out from multiple sources. This is kind of my distilled thoughts, that leverage is basically the single greatest point of difference between owning a job and owning a difference, because and multiple uses for the same assets or units of work. So the reason this is the single greatest point of difference between owning a job and owning owning a business, is because when you own a job, usually more are either like an artist or a technician, and your thing is kind of just like create something. Like you have this task in front of you and you do this task and you're happy, and this is just kind of like a very, it's good, and we have to do it in our lives. And I think one thing to keep in mind in general with this is that you cannot apply a leverage to everything you do. There are some things that you're gonna do that are not so leveraged, that are just basically you gotta do them like a one-time thing. They're not gonna create like a great competitive advantage. They are more in the realm of owning a job and owning a business. But the key is to keep this principle in mind with whatever you do, and try to catch yourself if you are doing too many things that where you don't apply this principle. And I think it's just like a constant progress. Like I'm not perfect at it. I'm just trying to keep in mind, and I'm just always trying to figure out like how can I, you know, answer yes to this question when I'm working with something. So if I do something, how can I create multiple uses for that? So if I write this note, how can I then, take it and then maybe create a blog from it, and also then a podcast from it, and then maybe promote it on social media? So it's basically like thinking, how can I, have multiple uses for the same unit of work? So for 1 hour of my time for this amount of energy I spent, and I think, and that's the biggest transition. And I think that's the biggest also obstacle that is preventing most, freelancers from becoming basically owners. And I think one quick note there that I heard is that the reason is because artists and technicians, so basically people that are more focused on like doing the actual work, compared to the owner or an investor, so someone who's more on the managing side, that actually there is this kind of paradox, you could say, that artists and technicians are control freaks. And I've seen this. I think this is one of the main things that the reason people, don't want to kind of, for example, delegate something to other people, is because they are afraid of losing control in their business on what they do. They think that if they do something themselves, it's going to be the best. And that might be true, but the problem is that you only have 8 hours, or I don't know, let's say 10 hours of time a day, and like 5 or 3 of them are most productive. So that's why this is so important, because leverage allows you to basically, kind of disconnect from this barrier of time. Because no matter, how different our brains are, how much less knowledge you have than Bill Gates or anyone else, you still have as much time as he has. So the difference between you and him is that he's able to. It's not the only difference, but one of the biggest differences is that he's able to leverage his time a lot better. He's able to in 1 hour of his time, he's able to kind of create some kind of an asset or some form of work that then is multiplied, and people can take that from him and they can work on that. So it's basically his judgment and is then multiplied. So that's I don't know. I'm gonna check if someone has any questions here. I'll try to, because when I'm speaking to you guys, it's also me trying to make sense of it all. It's not, I don't have it figured out, and I think I've read quite a lot about leverage, and I think there's quite a lot of materials in there, but it's still not Well, I don't think there is like a book you can read and just get it. I think it's just a constant way of looking at the word. You just have to integrate this principle into your life and start seeing the word through it, and what everything you do and what other people do. And that's how it starts, with all those principles. And again, the reason why this one is important is because this will allow you to go from a freelancer to a business owner. Because the only way is if you let go of the control, you stop trying to make everything perfect, meaning you have to do it yourself, and you will start one, delegating, also creating certain like assets like training, manuals, SOPs, so standard operating procedures, or some form of structure for a business. So structure is one of the biggest also form of leverage, because structure allows everyone to kind of be on the same page. And a lot of what where leverage is that you kind of have to invest a lot of time initially, and sometimes you don't see that that kind of payoff immediately. You usually have to wait a bit to see kind of the outputs of it. So that's why you have to do it for a bit of time and see where actually you are doing something that has leverage, where you are not doing something. The way you can look at leverage as well is this famous 80-20 principle. It's kind of the same Pareto principle. So that meaning that like 20% of what you do generates 80% of your results. So if you focus on that, those things that like those 20% that generate 80% of results, in a way you are also creating leverage. So there's different ways you can approach that. But I think this is one of the great questions that you can ask yourself, to kind of start figuring out for yourself, like, where are my inputs highly disconnected from outputs? So basically, what are the things that you do? And let's say now we are talking about business, not about your health, but it can be applied to anything. This is the magic of it. It's not that you apply this to just business. You can apply it to any field of your life. So what are the things that you do in your business right now, in your freelancing, that produce way more kind of results than all the other things you do? Maybe it's your sales calls, because you do a lot of things in a day, but one sales call gives you, I don't know, $5,000, $500 or something, and you do a few of them. And for the time that you spent, this gives you the most. Or maybe it's lead generation. So maybe you contacting some people. And basically, once you ask yourself that and you try to come up with answers, you then try to pick which couple are the most likely, because obviously you have your own biases, which is hard. That's why it's not so easy to do it yourself, and that's why something like tribal, like mastermind we have, a business group, is helpful. It's not because of some secret knowledge that we have. It's because all of us have our biases. So all of us have a story that we tell ourselves about ourselves, about our business, about what we do. And most of the time, big majority of the time, unless you are like really trained in that, it's gonna be biased in a way. Like you're not gonna be able to tell the 100% truth, because it's really hard to like disconnect yourself so much and be so objective. So that's why it's very useful to have other people who can look at your situation or your business or what you do. And you can give them, for example, your possible answers, and they can kind of dig into that, and they can just immediately say, hey, like I'm guessing this probably is not like that, and then they can kind of challenge you, question you, and I think that's one of the really good ways to dig into the truth, because it's really hard to be, again, we have a lot of cognitive biases. So it's really hard to be objective yourself, 100% objective yourself. So that's why having people around you that can tell you the truth is one of the most important things you can do for yourself if you want to grow, or if you want to grow yourself, or if you want to grow a business, and both. So business leverage comes from capital, people, and products with no marginal cost of replication. So basically, for example, people are leverage. Like if you hire, especially, so it can go both ways. If you hire the right people, they can be a great leverage, because they can basically, how they say, like, sum is greater than its parts. So like if you add one A player, so someone who's really great fit for a business and does really great job and works super hard and is committed and kind of over delivers, and you add a second person who does exactly the same, you have something either bigger and better than those two people individually. So you can, like, but at the same time, if you hire the wrong person, they can take your business down. So this can easily go both ways. Capital, so that's the most famous, like leverage. You have that in investing and stuff. That you can use a lever, and basically you pay $1,000, but in reality you invest $10,000. So there's like 10x leverage. You are able to do that. Debt is a form of leverage too, so you can take debt. And to explain this, the products of no marginal cost of replication. So basically, that's why online courses and things like that are so powerful. Or for example, like videos. Again, as we said, is that because you can, if you create a course, like online course, compared to, let's say, you giving a presentation, you can sell that course 1,000,000 times or 1,000 times. There is no barrier to you, selling it that many times, because it doesn't cost you anything to sell it more times. Usually, let's say. The same goes with once you write this note, and then you publish in a different places. There is no really cost of that. So this is how you can look at it. The products with no marginal cost of replication. It's some form of asset that you can basically use or sell, basically infinite amount of times if you want it, and you don't have to invest almost any more energy or time or money for doing it. So here are some, for example, examples of high leverage activities or forms of leverage: adding support staff, networking, measuring, thinking time. So we could go down that rabbit hole of thinking time. This is something really great tool I use, and it costs nothing. It's about sitting down for 1 hour and creating great questions, asking yourself that, and trying to answer them. Strategic alliances. So basically, if you look at it from the forms of leverage, the reason why, for example, strategic alliances are forms of leverage is because in the short term, when you try to make someone like says partnership, you could say, because strategic alliance is basically a partnership. It doesn't in the short term, and immediately, a lot of times you don't really gain anything. And it might be quite a bit of investment on your part of time and effort, and it might not be easy. But eventually, once the partnership is settled and things kind of the agreement is set, like what you do, for example, you send me clients, I help you with this, or I know it's different, or I send you clients and you send me clients, we exchange clients. There's different ways you can have partnerships. But once it starts rolling, actually, then when a month passes, 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, the outcomes of it, the kind of the benefits of that are way outweighed anything you could do in that, let's say you spent 5 hours in total to build that partnership. Well, what's going to happen in a few months is that, you are not able to do anything in 5 hours that's compared to the benefits that you get from this strategic partnership, from this partnership. Because maybe you get, a few, you even get a few clients, a couple of clients a month from that person, then it's probably worth a few $1,000s. So it's gonna be really difficult for you to make that much money, or create that much value in the same time if you were to just work on something yourself. So that's why I say a lot of these things are like immediately you don't see that big of a benefit with a lot of them, but that's the power of them. Like it's kind of investing in the darkness. I don't know how to say that. Okay, let's see. What do you think about starting a sales agency? Okay, starting a sales agency. I don't know how to get into that link, but anyway, just to say about starting a sales agency. I mean, there is no really, I think there is no answer of like yes and no. Sales agency, it can work, it cannot. I think it really depends on your skills. If you have some, I think, sales skills already, then it's gonna be much easier, and maybe someone to kind of guide you on how to best find clients, how to hire, things like that. But I think if you have no idea about sales, then starting a sales agency, that's gonna be tough, because like you need to know like who to hire, how to figure out like who knows how to do sales, what to pay them, if something's not working, how to coach them. So I think the big answer there is like it really depends on your current skill in sales, I would say. Yeah, so I don't see any more questions for now at this one, but yeah, feel free to just a reminder, guys, shoot some questions. The reason I'm talking about all this stuff now is because I don't see any more questions, so I'm just basically rolling with some interesting concepts that I like to ponder on myself, and maybe there is a chance some of you guys have some takeaways from that, even if it's one thing. So yeah, for example, so we are talking about the biggest point of difference between owning a job and owning a business. So let's say you have examples of high leverage activities. So these are forms of leverage. Let's say examples. Developing systems for automating repetitive work. So you see that's the big difference. Like if you have the mindset of a technician or an artist, or just someone who just sees a task and does it, then you're not gonna do this, because you have an email to send, and you're gonna send that email, like you're gonna write that email and send it. So let's say it takes you half an hour. But if you start thinking in the realms of leverage and trying to figure out how can you gain more time and do more in less, then you're gonna start looking at those type of things as like, hey, am I doing this repeatedly? Like, how many times have I done this type of email? How many times have I sent this type of email? Okay, maybe it's the 5th time, or maybe it's the 10th time, maybe it's a 50th time. Okay, so maybe the better way is that I spend a bit more time and figure out like what is the template in a way for this email. So probably I write it in a certain way most of the time. I change some stuff for each individual person, but there is some form of structure to it. So maybe the better way for me, if I want to kind of have some more free time in the future, and again, own a business, not a job, is that I create that template and I put it somewhere on like a Google Drive or whatever. And the next time I do it, I use that template, and instead of spending half an hour, I spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So while in the short term, it doesn't make sense because maybe making that template and putting it takes you, a couple hours instead of half an hour. But if it's something you do repeatedly, or someone instead of you are gonna do repeatedly, then you can see how on the like 10th time you do it, you're gonna already be better off, because you're gonna save already like 2 hours of your time. So 2 hours that you spent, you're already kind of even Steven. So then anything beyond that, you basically want yourself freedom of time. So that's just an example of how you can think about it. So it's basically systems thinking. Leverage comes easier when you have a systems thinking. And I don't think it's something, well, for some people it's more natural, but I think it's basically something you have to learn. Like most of the business skills, it's not like this magical talent. So yeah, building relationships with top clients. So you see a lot of this, it doesn't seem like it's a high value task on one hand, like on the face value of it. Like, why learning a new skill would be more important than answering this immediate email. Well, the reason is because like when you learn a new skill, you make better decisions. So anything you do in business, and if you have people under you, is gonna be better. And it's really hard to quantify that. That's why it's sometimes so much easier for us to do what's immediate. But this is what they all have in common: eliminating unnecessary work, having important conversations, mentoring and training people you can delegate to. So yeah, again, so at first, when mentoring and training, it costs you a lot of time and energy to first hire to then train person. But in a couple of months' time, once you do that, instead of you having to work 10 hours a day, you might have to work 4 hours a day. And then with those 4 hours, you can again focus on more, high leverage activities, and just kind of repeat that process over and over and over again. And then you become better. One of the other tools I like for this concept to use is asking yourself this, adding this to any question you ask yourself. Everything else will be easier or unnecessary. So what can I? So for example, you can ask yourself in the morning every day, what is the one thing, if accomplished today, will make everything else easier or unnecessary? Or you can add it to anything else, but that's the ultimate test. So like, if you think about it, it just basically means, okay, so there's a million of things I can do, or 10 things, or 100 things. But then if I ask myself that question, so I can see a theme, maybe like a domino. Okay, so if there's this one thing that's like really hard, but if I spend maybe like 4 hours on it, that's gonna make all the other 3 things or 4 things, almost unnecessary or much easier. So for example, something like, I have a lot of problems, but maybe the key is that you just need more sales and just more cash flow, because once you have more cash flow, you can hire people, and that's gonna basically solve like 80% of your problems. So sometimes the solution, the answer is gonna be simple, but it might be hard. So that's the magic of it. If you ask yourself, as you ask yourself that question, you're gonna have to face kind of your reality, and you're gonna have to stop procrastinating or getting distracted with the small tasks. So that's something related to our last conversation with Matt. We talked about distractions, and distractions can take many forms, but one of them is basically doing the urgent things rather than the important things. So like you, instead of sitting down and writing an article, or I don't know, writing some kind of manual for your employee, or like this template, let's say, you basically I don't know, you decided, okay, I have to like clean my house, and it seems like cleaning your house is also, you have to do it, but it's more on the side of like it's just a distraction, because you know that that the one thing that's gonna make the most difference is hard and probably needs a lot of time and energy, but you also know in your heart that if you do it, it's gonna make everything easier and unnecessary. And this again repeats myself. Leverage is the bridge that transitions the owner of a business from an operator mode to an owner mode. So yeah, in operator mode, you have to micromanage everything. You have to keep in your mind everything. You are the one responsible for everything. And, there is no structure. And basically, leverage is one of the ways you can do it. I mean, we can attack this problem of going from a freelancer or owning a job to owning a business from so many angles, but this is just one of them. So it would be really helpful if anyone has any more questions regarding this, because I would be really happy to clarify some of that, because I'm pretty sure I confused you guys in a bunch of places. That's obvious. The main knowledge before time SMS, but do you think that guy's margin's legit? That guy? Yeah, I don't know what's this guy's margin. Again, I don't know how to enter that link, so if you can tell me what's his margin, but I can tell you that I think margin, well, it really depends on the business, but like I think in consulting businesses you can have like 50% margin. In more like service businesses, it's more about 20%, somewhere around that. But there's different structures, and also it really depends on how big of a business you are, because usually the more employees you have, the bigger the business, then the margins kind of go down. When you are solo, like the margins are great, but you also don't have time and you burn out. So like I wouldn't focus on margins as being like this king of all things. That okay, this is important metric, but it's not the one ring rules all kind of thing from Lord of the Rings. So yeah, let's okay, I'm pumped. Let's get into my newfound. I don't have it so much. I don't have so many notes on that yet, but I'm gonna tell you guys my new favorite mental model, or you could say principle, or law. I mean, these are in the form of laws. Like they exist. Like whether you like it or not, leverage exists. It's I don't know from which domain it comes, but it exists. So you like it or not, it exists in the world. So that's the magic of it. But the new one, I've known it about compound interest. Like a lot of us heard about it, and probably some of you guys can even explain what it is. But what I didn't know is that Albert Einstein, which was pretty smart dude, if you know what I mean. I recommend you guys this show called Genius. The first season is about Albert Einstein. Like kind of, it's not a documentary. It is kind of they are actors, but it's telling basically his story and how he became the guy he became. Really great, informative. So recommend anyone. But what I didn't know again is that Albert Einstein's quote, and you're gonna find it online, is that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. And a second thing, I think he also said it somewhere, is that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. That's pretty bold statement. Um, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around like how to properly use it. I think one of the guys that you guys should check out regarding this is also Peter Kaufman. Just write it in YouTube or some other places. I mean, there's not a lot of material from him, but I think you just have to type like Peter Kaufman on multidisciplinary thinking. Yeah, and basically he described companies as dogged incremental. So dog means like how do you say tentative? I will tell you, it will come to me. Increment and constant progress over a long period of time. And we humans don't like to be constant in what we do. Yeah, so compound interest, it's basically, you know, what they say that you add like a penny to your bank each day, and that, you know, and then compounds, and at the in the 10th year you don't have $1,000, but you have like $1,000,000 or whatever. So that's basically what they say about compound interest. I think today I just wanted to bring you guys attention to this. I will have more notes on that on the next call if it's not an interview or whatever. I will try to talk more about compound interest, because right now I just wanted to tell you guys Peter Kaufman, and that, you know, it's worth digging into if Albert Einstein said it's the most powerful you know, force in the universe. So I think it's really how do you say, it's really, yeah, it must, there must be a really good applications for it for each of your businesses. I mean, one of the ways I'm doing it is like, okay, you can look at compound interest, for example, in this note-taking tool, is that each note you add to it, because it's all like so interconnected, and the more links you add, the more links you have, and it's kind of this exponential effect that it's not like having 10 notes or like 100 notes is 10 times better than having a 10 notes. It's like 1,000 times better. So that's kind of how it works with also with let's say building like a YouTube channel or podcast or things like that, or your personal site. It's like this if you can tap into this this force of compound interest, is that over time each individual thing you add just kind of adds to it. So it means that also the things you do kind of have to be long lasting. Like they cannot be just useful for here and now. So it basically has to be something that just kind of maintains its value over time. So for example, if it's a video or if it's a blog post or whatever, the idea would be that it's evergreen, it's future proof. Like what you talk about, the idea you talk about, is gonna be as relevant today as it's gonna be relevant in 5 years from now, and it was relevant 10 years ago. So it doesn't, and there are a lot of things like that. You know, news aren't like that, because news, they are only great today and maybe tomorrow about a certain topic. But you know, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Just kind of guiding you guys through my process. Okay. Oh, that's a good question. What do you recommend starting a podcast? What benefits you get from a podcast experience? Okay. So so I think one of the one of the mm, let me stop sharing the screen. So I think one of the main ways you could think about podcasts is that it's definitely a long-term play. Um, well, okay, maybe let's talk about it differently. I think that podcast, you have to ask yourself, why would you want to do it? So that's the first thing, because I think from what I've seen and for myself and from other people, there are two main ways I've seen people, two main reasons why people do it. One is because people just, like to talk to other people, and they just like to have interesting conversations, and it's just a great forum to do it. It's simple, and now we have technology for it, and and you just kind of want to both learn something for yourself and also share it with other people. So that's like one way you can look at it. Oh, sorry, I have to just plug my one. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I was saying, so the first reason you would start a podcast is basically you just want to learn new things, talk to interesting people, build relationships, and that's great. For me, that's kind of the goal. Um, the second reason hello, 1 2 3. Okay, I think now it's working. Um, is it working now? Hello, can you hear me? 1 2 3. Okay. So yeah, so again, so that's the first one. The second reason that I've seen is more focus on like business side of things that people now focus on, which is basically they don't really care about audience and reaching a lot of people with the podcast or anything like that. It's more about talking to your clients or customers or potential ones and building relationship with them, also potentially like selling to them. It's just this kind of like less intrusive way. You get to someone, you first like interview them, then you talk about, hey, I actually have this service. And so I've seen quite a lot of people do it more in the realms of kind of sales plus relationship building, but less focus on actually like learning and stuff like that. So I think these are the two main ways. There probably have a million other reasons people do it. So I think I would first ask yourself the question of what you're trying to do. Okay, so do I recommend the second way? Mm, yeah, I think I think that people that could do it the second way, they also form of enjoy it, because I think it's gonna take you quite a bit of work, um, because it's not like you have to like record it, then you have to edit it, then you have to publish it. So it's not gonna be, you either have to have someone and hire somebody and pay, or you have to do it yourself. So you have to keep in mind that it's gonna take you some hours. So I think if you don't enjoy it in some sort of a way, you don't like the idea, then it's maybe not the best. But in general, I've heard and I've seen people, make do it well, like because they can just reach directly to their client's customer list, and as long as you don't do it in this very like like you genuinely want to first talk to the person, just hear them out, and just the kind of the sales part is just kind of like just kind of something low key after the fact, like, hey, maybe if you were interested, blah blah blah, this is kind of what we do. And you are most focused on building those relationships and playing the long-term game. I think a lot of it is just long-term. Like you can't look at I think none of it as kind of short-term, because also you have to keep in mind that you have to get those guests. So let's say you are in the second way. So your guests would be potentially your kind of potential clients from some businesses. So at the beginning it might not be so like easy to get them, but eventually once you start rolling and have more episodes and you've done those interviews and people see that, okay, it's cool, then you have a higher chance of landing new guests. So that's why I'm talking about the long game. Like it's kind of this exponential effect, this kind of compound interest again, that you build. And I can recommend you some tools, some guides, whatever. But I think the most important question is, you have to. I would start, if you never tried it, I would just do like a sprint. Like, okay, I want to test this idea, and just kind of write yourself, okay, so the way to test this idea is to maybe create like, I don't know, 5 episodes or something like that. Obviously you need some kind of preparation work, so you need to create maybe some kind of show website. So there is this a lot of things, but I think it doesn't take so long time. Like you can go on Fiverr and you can get like a podcast intro for a few dollars. You can get some like a graphic to put on your YouTube or some other place. Podcast hosting costs like $50. So I use, for example, Simplecast, but there's a bunch of them. So you can just the essentials is basically like a tool for recording the interviews. So it could be something like this, for example. The StreamYard is one of them that I'm using right now. But you can even use Zoom. I've been using Zoom. I think Zoom is good enough, the free version. So there's no point in the beginning investing in that. I think from money wise, in something that actually costs money, then I think a good microphone is a must. If you have like it built in your laptop or something, I don't think it's good enough, because in podcast the audio really matters. And then the second thing is the podcast hosting. So there's like many of those. What I recommend, if you also wanted some potentially easy way to get some guests on your show, is this website called matchmaker.fm, I think. Matchmaker.fm. It's I've been on it since the beginning. It's this kind of website where you can either become a guest on the show, or people can get on your show. You can reach out to people, and they're from all walks of life. So this is also some easy way. But in general, like if you want your clients, you have to email them. And then let me think, what else is there? You're gonna need someone, depends how long you're gonna do it, or figure out yourself like how to edit kind of the show roughly. But I think on Fiverr you can probably, if you have some spare money, you can just get someone. If you want to just do like the sprint of 5 episodes, then probably you don't want to hire somebody. So just to test out, you can, if you have some knowledge about it, you can just do it yourself, or you can just pay somebody this few times and get this done. Some other tools and tips. I don't know. I think I think for the if you do it more in the second way, the sales, I think you just need kind of something to attract those people to see that it's kind of serious. So ideally, the most basic site for the show, or at least if it's not a site, then like I don't know, like a graphic on your YouTube channel or something that it shows that okay, there's some name for the show and there is something, and so it basically is gonna increase your chances of someone appearing, accepting that and not thinking that you are just kind of trying to sell them something. So I think you just kind of have to build up the appearances slightly, invest a little bit in that, and then just reach out to people, record it on Zoom, edit, and publish a few of them. Have like some, once you get the guests. Also like figure out the formats for the show. So is it like 30 minutes? Is it 1 hour? Is it like more like a rapid questions, or is it more like a conversation that you want to do? A lot of people have different, I've heard guys who have like, 15-minute conversation with like dozens of people to just come in. They ask them like 10 rapid questions or whatever. And that's it. And then they maybe, once the cameras are off, they talk about, some topics related to your service, their business, blah, blah, blah. You can also like send an email again after the show, like thanking them, doing this and saying like, hey, by the way, this is what we do. So I think the format is a big one. It really depends on how much time you have and what you like. I, for example, like, longer conversations, and also I don't really care about the sales with the podcast. So I'm doing it differently. So, again, like podcast is just one medium. It's really cool because, I think now it's also a good time. So if I were to say, if there was one time to try it out, I think it's now, because most people are sitting at home. So your chances of basically getting someone, to talk to you are higher because people don't really have anything better to do. So if I were to test that idea for yourself, as let's say that, then it would be now, in the until we still are kind of in the lockdowns everywhere in the world, people are more likely to I think take those type of calls, interviews. I don't know what there's probably a lot of more things I could tell you, but I don't want to overwhelm you. So if you have anything specific, just shoot me on. Put it in the under what's your podcast doing frequency. So I set it as a once per week. Now I had a small break because I finished kind of a batch. So I think the best way actually to do it, that's maybe last note, is to batch the show. So, basically reach out to a bunch of people, try to schedule like 5 interviews in 1 or 2 weeks. And then, record them. And then once you have those 5, just edit them all, do what you need to, and then schedule them, or just simply publish them, let's say once a week. That way, or you can, even if it's just the start of your show, you can basically launch with free as the starter, because that kind of, I heard it boosts a lot your your starting popularity of your show, like when you immediately release quite a few, because you have 0. So one last thing I would talk about is batching. It's not like recording one, editing, publishing, but like record a few or a bunch of them, and then keep them in store, and then slowly edit and publish them. And at the beginning, try with first publishing like 3 at once. So and again, if you have more questions and stuff like that, I can send you more things. Just post in the comments on the Facebook group. Ask the question, whatever. And if it's something longer, then I will leave it for the next time I do the live, so next week. And I have to run in a moment because it's we are just now passing an hour. I saw that Samira said, I want to have a guide or join a group as a starter. Can you please, again, I'm passing an hour, so I'm going to be going. But if you can elaborate on what you mean and put it in the comments on our Facebook group, and if it's not Facebook group, then put it in the comment on the YouTube, because I see you are coming from a YouTube channel. I don't see whose YouTube channel. So yeah, if you can elaborate on that question, then I will make sure to answer that just later after the stream. And yeah, guys, for anyone who tuned in, thanks so much. I will try to get better. Thanks for sticking. I will try to get better each week with, hopefully delivering more value, being more concise. Hopefully more and more people are going to be tuning in, so we have more questions, so you have more, also more things for yourself to kind of see what other people are asking, and maybe that's also something for you. And yeah, also expect, again, as I said at the beginning, expect some interviews I've woven into. So maybe next week I'm gonna talk with somebody from our group about some of the things that they figure out for themselves, what's working, what's not working for them, their kind of journey. Sometimes I'm also gonna be talking with Matt, like last week, about some topics. And again, in the meantime, feel free to pile up some questions in, let's say under this video, and for the next week, I will try to answer them. And so again, thanks so much everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. The weekend's coming, so have a great weekend, and hasta la vista. See ya.